It's day one of the Donna Adelson trial in Florida. It's Friday, August 22nd, 2025. Do most judges start a trial on a Friday? No. But Judge Everett is ready to get this case zooming. They worked till well after 6:30 local time, which is Eastern, last night to finish selecting a jury. They seated a jury of 14, 12 plus 2 alternates. They had wanted 3 alternates. They didn't get 3 alternates. They got 2 and they're like, we're good. We're rolling with it. Let's go. And that's exactly what they did. So when we go to court today, we are in day one of trial after 3 days of jury selection. What does that mean for us? Well, it means that they are ready to rock, and it means that the jurors were only there for like a half day and then a full day for the final day of jury selection, and they're ready to go, and that the judge expects evidence today. So when we go to court, that's what we're looking for. So law nerds, are you ready? I'm ready.
This murder was set into motion because back in 2014, this defendant's family had a big problem. And the big problem was Dan Markel. And the solution to that problem was the defendant's son, Charlie Adelson. Charlie Adelson was the solution because he had a girlfriend with connections to the type of people who were willing and capable of pointing a gun at a complete stranger and pulling the trigger. A review by law enforcement of Wendy Adelson's emails made it clear that her mother, the defendant, hated Dan Markel and was the relentless driving force behind Wendy's relocation efforts to South Florida. And, being a caring and involved parent is great, but the defendant's participation in her children's lives went beyond mere involvement or even meddling. She was extremely controlling. She had very strong opinions about all the decisions in Wendy Adelson's life, whether it be about her career, her relationships, or even purchasing a home. Donna Adelson suggested in her emails several bribes to get Dan Markel to agree to relocation, like plane tickets, paying for her grandson's education, and the defendant even suggested offering Dan Markel a $1 million bribe to allow the relocation, to let Wendy move to Miami with the boys. And if the bribes didn't work, the defendant also suggested several ways that Wendy could threaten or bully Dan Markel into submission. Charlie Adelson was convicted in November of 2023. And within hours of his guilty verdict, this defendant began to plan to flee the United States to a country that she could not be extradited from in order to avoid being arrested for Dan Markel's murder. The defendant on her phone researched countries that did not have extradition treaties with the United States, and she applied for an emergency visa to Vietnam. She was overheard planning to put her money in trust for her grandchildren, and she and her husband purchased one-way tickets with a fast-track emergency visa to Vietnam. And Vietnam does not have an extradition treaty with the U.S., as she would have learned from her searches. And just days later, she was stopped by law enforcement on the jetway in Miami International Airport, where she was boarding her one-way flight to Vietnam. And she was then charged for her participation in the murder of Dan Markel. After the defendant was charged, law enforcement received information from women who said that the defendant, Donna Adelson, was offering them bribes in exchange for false testimony in this trial. They said Donna Adelson promised them money, housing, veneers, prescription drugs, if they were willing to testify that Catherine Magbanua told them a completely different story about the crime than the one that she would be testifying to. One informant was even able to show law enforcement a script, a question and answer session for a direct examination in trial that Donna Adelson herself wrote, and that Donna Adelson wanted this informant to memorize and come into court and perjure herself by reciting it to you here in trial. Please listen to all of the evidence that y'all are going to see and hear in this trial. I know it's been a long week already, and we have a lot of evidence for you in this case, but when you do, you will see that this defendant conspired with her son, Charlie Adelson, who solicited his girlfriend, Catherine McBanois, to get this murder done. And then this defendant paid her with cash, with checks for the job once it was completed. The defendant acted in furtherance of this murder plot that went beyond just thinking about it or just talking about it. And these acts make her guilty as a principal to first-degree murder, just as if she was the one pulling the trigger in the garage herself. And while the defendant's choices helped solve a problem within her family, they came at a very high price. She took the life of a loving father of 2 little boys and caused a lifetime of grief for Dan Markel's loved ones. And at the conclusion of the evidence in this case, you will be convinced beyond any reasonable doubt that this defendant is guilty. And at that point, we'll ask you for the only verdict that does justice in this case, which is a verdict that this defendant is guilty as charged. Thank you.
Donna is charged with 3 counts: murder, conspiracy to commit murder, solicitation of murder. Yes, those are all different. When you look at the murder charge, aiding and abetting can charge someone with the same charge as the principal, even if they assisted with it. Conspiracy, same thing. If you have an agreement to commit the crime and the crime is committed, you can be charged with the underlying crime. Here, it's a murder. If the crime is not committed, then you can end up with that attempted conspiracy or just the conspiracy charge because the crime was never undertaken, but steps were made towards the crime. Solicitation is not the agreement to commit the murder. It's trying to get someone to do it for you. It's soliciting someone to commit that crime. That's why the 3 charges. They are allowed to bring up the convictions of other members of the conspiracy because A, those members of the conspiracy are going to testify, and B, their convictions will be known. It's not prejudicial to them, and it's not prejudicial to Donna Adelson. It's just a fact that they've been convicted. It will come up when they testify. So the prosecutor's opening statement, I thought, was detailed without being overly detailed. The assistant state's attorney, I will sometimes call them a DA, not to be confused with Donna Adelson DA, but the prosecutor, I think, did a great job of telling the story and then highlighting key pieces of evidence, photos where there are wiretaps, where there is a tail taking photos of people meeting, co-conspirators talking, and then the emails. She laid out what the evidence will show, but also what each individual did, how they are all connected, what they look like, and went through the different charges and then circled back to, and this is what she didn't say consciousness of guilt, but this is what the consciousness of guilt looks like, with some new information that we hadn't seen in the redacted filings of Donna trying to get her jailhouse daughter to testify that Catherine McBanois said in custody something totally different, because Donna wrote a script for the informant who was going to testify with like question and answer and tried to pay them. We are already seeing the prosecution setting up the through line of the case that Donna Adelson is highly controlling and will control those around her to get what she wants. Will tell them what to do, will tell them how to do it, and will try to get her way, including by telling those in custody to testify for her and how to testify by offering them money, apparently veneers, housing, money, And what have we seen in every turn that the prosecutor pointed out that Donna was doing? I'm going to throw some money at getting an emergency visa. I'm going to get a one-way flight. We're going to offer Dan Markel $1 million to let the kids move from Tallahassee 8 hours away down to Miami. They are trying to use money to solve every problem that they come across. It'll be real interesting to see how the defense responds to the opening statement.
I just want to start by saying this. Remember, during the course of the proceedings, that the state always gets to go first. But the defense has a right to be heard too. So please keep an open mind until you hear from us as well. For an hour, you heard about this killing. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. And you heard an awful lot about why they think Donna Adelson has the motive to kill Danny Markel. And you heard an awful lot about what other people did in this case. But not a single piece of evidence was discussed that shows that Donna Adelson planned this, hired anybody to do this, or intended that this happen. And I just want you to be mindful that when we're at the end of the case and the judge gives you the instructions, and he gives them, I won't do that. When he gives you the instructions, he's not going to give you an instruction that says the state has to prove motive. He's going to give you elements of each offense, and he's going to say that each element of each offense has to have actual evidence to prove that. Not motive, actual evidence that those things happen. I want to ask you to never, ever stop thinking for the 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks that we're here about why it is we are really here. Not just because Donna Adelson is on trial, but because 2 men killed Danny Markel. Don't forget Danny. He was an amazing professor. He was very well educated. He had 2 degrees, I think, from Harvard, one of them from law school there. More important to Danny Markel than anything in the world were his little boys. People who know Donna will tell you that she is not the person that the state is portraying her to be. She's kind, caring, loving. She cares more about people than she does about herself. This case is really a lot about theory and motive and not evidence. The state has a theory, and for the past 9 to 11 years, in fairness, probably 9 years, they have told the whole world that Mrs. Adelson was the reason that this happened. Mrs. Adelson was the reason that this happened. They've told this story, and it's outrageous. It gets people's attention. It's made a lot of money for the media, interviews, specials. Some people in jury selection said they had watched these specials. Lawyers on there, investigators on there. They made a lot of money for the media, and it got big attention because this is outrageous, what happened. It is truly outrageous. But what's more outrageous is, without any evidence, only motive and theory, they put her at the top of this pyramid. She's the matriarch. She's the matriarch mastermind behind Danny being killed, and they don't have evidence of that. That's what's outrageous. It's outrageous that he got killed, but it's also outrageous that we're sitting here with a jury, and you're going to hear a lot of theory, a lot of motive, and a lot of what they believe the evidence means. At the end of listening to all of the evidence, we're going to have an opportunity to make closing arguments. And the judge is then going to give you, well, he's going to give it before, he's going to give you all of the instructions on what it is that you have to decide. Did the state charge and then prove that Mrs. Adelson committed a conspiracy? Not one of the elements, all of the elements, proven by evidence, not theory. not motive. For each count, then solicitation, all the elements. So while you're listening to the evidence, you don't know what those elements are, but think about what each thing it is that the state has alleged. She planned it. She got people to do it. She intended that he die. That this woman wanted to take away the father of her grandchildren for the rest of their life because of relocation that happened a year ago and was done and over. And at the end of the case, because there's not going to be evidence that she did this, keep an open mind. Listen to all of it. We're going to ask you to find her not guilty of every single count. Thank you.
The defense opening statement was not what I expected. A, it was much shorter. B, it didn't really focus on the evidence. A lot of the opening statement focused on the victim and what a great person he was, what a great father he was, what a learned professor he was. And at the end of opening, the defense said the prosecutors aren't going to prove that this woman, Donna Adelson, wanted to take away the father of her grandchildren. She called the state's case theory and motive, but lacking on evidence, and talked about Charlie Adelson and what Charlie did. Said that the state will be able to prove what the two gunmen did, but that there's not much evidence as to Donna. But the opening statement really didn't say what evidence shows Donna didn't do anything. It was odd, the amount of focus on the victim. She said, wait till all the evidence. The state goes first. We will go after. And then at the end, she said, the judge will tell you about the elements. Listen to them to see if the state has proven those elements. And at the end of the case, we're going to ask you to find Donna Adelson not guilty. And now we're getting into witness number one. I mean, she did everything but call Donna Adelson a little old granny. It just was an interesting opening statement.
The matters that we've discussed at sidebar concerning emotional responses, I do feel it is important at this point. Mrs. Adelson,
knock it off.
When the testimony is occurring or the evidence, I know you may have a natural reaction, but as best possible, you need to control your reactions concerning any head movements, any expressions of disagreement, or any emotional outbursts. The jury must decide this matter on the merits, on the evidence. Do you understand this? Very well. I do not wish to do this in front of the jurors at all, but it's very important.
But I will.
To control your emotions. Do you understand what I'm saying? Does either party need to be heard before we before we go into the lunch break?
We are at the lunch break of day one of the trial of Donna Adelson in Tallahassee, Florida. It is Friday, August 22nd. The court said he wants this case done to the jury by September 5th. They are moving through witnesses pretty quick. We are on witness number 4, the medical examiner, who just finished testimony as to the cause and manner of death of Dan Markel. So far, there have been no cross-examinations, which isn't surprising. In the defense opening statement, they did indicate that they don't dispute that this murder happened. They don't dispute who committed the murder insofar as the people who've already been prosecuted. Their argument here is that Donna had nothing to do with it. There is no evidence that shows that Donna had anything to do with it, that Donna didn't hire anyone, murder anyone, solicit anyone. But those things did happen to Danny Markel, as the defense attorney referred to him in her opening, but that Donna wasn't involved. So as we are doing the foundational evidence of the homicide, they haven't had any cross-examination. So we've gone through the neighbor who heard the gunshot and saw a light-colored Prius speeding out of Dan Markel's driveway and away. We heard from the crime scene forensic analyst who showed up and took photographs and collected evidence. And now we are on to the coroner, which just finished with cause of death being 2 gunshot wounds to the head and face, and manner of death being homicide. The court indicated there's about 3 more witnesses after lunch, and that will be the end of the day, except right after the jury went out, the court took a moment to address Donna Adelson directly and said, this is something that we've addressed already at sidebar, that there can't be emotional responses. No boo-hooing, my words, not the court's, over at counsel table. No nodding in agreement, no shaking your head. Sit there. The jury needs to decide the case on the evidence, not on emotion, not on sympathy. So the court has advised the defendant again that she needs to rein it in her reactions. We'll see what happens after lunch. The coroner testimony and photos are going to be difficult for anyone, but we've watched a lot of cases and most defendants do sit there somewhat stoically.
We had many motion hearings in this matter, and we've continued this case several times to handle these matters pre-trial. Why is this coming up now?
The exhibit that we were provided with, I went through thoroughly and had all of my objections listed, and then was told that's not correct. It's another binder. It's different emails. The binder I was handed by the state was completely discombobulated, not in date order. It was a train wreck.
As the state's exhibits you're referring to.
That's correct. And so then they provided us with this binder. It appears to maybe still be missing something, but they have a list, an exhibit list, everything laid out by date, by exhibit A, all the sub-exhibit numbers. So that's why, Your Honor.
We're not going to waste the jurors' times.
Were you hired to participate in the murder of Dan Markel?
Yes, ma'am.
Who hired you to be involved in the murder?
Well, I got it from my friend, Dudo Garcia.
Is that Sigfredo Garcia?
Yes, ma'am.
How did you know him?
Childhood friends.
So to cooperate and get this deal, you had to turn on one of your best friends.
Yes, ma'am.
Who enlisted Sigfredo Garcia to be a part of this murder?
Katie,
Who's Katie?
his wife.
Is that Catherine Magbanoa?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know who enlisted her to be involved in this murder?
Not really.
Was it a murder for hire?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you know that somebody was paying Katie?
Yes, ma'am.
And Katie was the one that brought the money to you all, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the purpose of this murder as you understood it?
That they wanted the kids.
Who wanted the kids?
Wendy.
The people.
Okay. And did you understand that you were killing the father of the kids so that Wendy could have the kids?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you previously referred to a dentist being involved?
Yes, ma'am.
Who was the dentist?
Charlie.
And how was he related?
I think the defense is allowing the
Katie's
leading
boyfriend.
because
Stippies, whatever you want to call him.
it's
All
about
right, so
Charlie.
Katie was the wife of Garcia,
I mean,
but also
wife
the
is-
girlfriend of the dentist?
Like wife
Yeah.
is
Did you have any contact with the
used
dentist
the phrase
ever?
loosely.
No.
Did you have any contact with any member of the Adelson family?
No, ma'am.
Everything went through Katie, right?
Yes, ma'am.
What did the dentist, if you know, have to do with the lady in Tallahassee who needed her kids?
I don't know nothing about him. I don't know nothing about that family.
6 witnesses at the end of day 1 in the trial against Donna Adelson. What we have learned from the few cross-examinations we've seen in the defense opening statement is "it wasn't me" is going to be the theme of the defense case. These people did this, but Donna didn't. You didn't see Donna do this. You didn't see Donna do that. And in a conspiracy case, it's fair because other members of the conspiracy wouldn't have interacted with Donna, wouldn't have seen Donna. So as we get into all of this, there is an ongoing fight over some emails, but those are going to be largely, I think, cleared up with Wendy Adelson, because Wendy is going to talk about what she sent to her mother and then the conversations that they had about them as it relates to the divorce proceedings, which is one of the things that the defense really fought over today in court, which very much frustrated the court because he said this was all part of pretrial motions. And it was. The defense made pretrial motions exactly on point. The defense said, but we got one exhibit and then we got a different exhibit. They knew that the divorce proceedings were coming in. They knew that the state was seeking to admit various information that was provided to Donna in legal proceedings. The defense knew all of this, so that's part of why the court was frustrated that this hadn't come up more specifically in pretrial motions. Though the court in part said, yes, the prosecution needs to go through the exhibit and connect them, link them, find the nexus between what was sent to Donna in the emails and any court documents that are going to be admitted against Donna to show her knowledge, motive, state of mind. So they have to go through and make sure that those things are connected back. And that's what the prosecution was talking about. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed this episode and don't want to miss updates on your favorite cases, you're going to need the LawNerd app at lawnerdapp.com. That way you can stay in the loop on the cases that matter most to you. And you never know when you're going to catch feelings for a new case. So make sure you get it for free on iOS and Android. Thank you for being here, and thank you for being a Law Nerd.